Hi guys, welcome to Stitches by D, and today we're gonna make this lovely placemat. That is a 2-in-1 placemat, two different fabrics in one placemat. So that means you can have two placemats in one. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe and like my video to support what I am doing. Thank you. So to make this, I'm gonna use this blankety. I'm gonna call it blankety fabric. It's what I used instead of batting. If you have batting, you can go for that. I'll use this lovely piece of fabric that I like for placemats, and this other one that's totally contrasting with my first fabric. So it's two different fabrics and my blankety fabric for the batting. So I'm just going to show you how to cut this one fabric, and then you're going to use that technique to cut out all your fabrics for this particular project. So I used a fabric that was 15 inches by 12 inches. That's what I cut out on my fabric. So that means eventually I'll end up with a placemat that's 14 inches by 11 inches, and because 1 inch will be used for stitching and seam allowances. You don't want to do any work without a seam allowance. So that's me marking out. It's not wrong to be too cautious when cutting out these fabrics. I like to be very cautious, so I like to mark them, draw lines, and cut. Better to be safe than sorry. I learned that one the other day. Anyway, so yeah, I am marking my lines where the 15 and 12 end, and then I'm gonna draw them with a chalk. By the way, stitching it doesn't have to be very expensive. This is a normal chalk that I'm using. You don't need a fabric chalk, you just need a chalk that can draw lines. Good thing with this one is you can wash it out. Yep, and I am cutting out my fabric, piece of fabric that I can use for my placemat. So now I have 3 different kinds of fabrics, 2 Ankara fabrics and 1 blankety fabric, as you can see. All right, same size. Yeah. So to arrange them, I'm gonna put the blankety fabric at the very bottom, and then one of the other Ankara fabrics on top of the blankety fabric with the right side facing up. And then I'm gonna place the second piece of fabric with the right side facing down. This ensures that the 2 right sides of my Ankara fabrics are facing each other like that. All right, and then I'm gonna place it flat and try pin it all around. Now I like pinning my work before stitching because it helps me, guides me do my stitches. This is a very easy project, but it can really mess it up because if you don't stitch straight, you will end up with a very weird looking placemat. So this is one of the projects I learned when I began to sew, and the trick is pinning it flat. So please try and pin it flat. Like you can see, I'm really struggling to do that, but once you get that right, sewing it will be fun, and making the whole placemat will be fun too. Okay, so I like such projects because I just need to take the measurements, sew straight, and I end up with a finished product. Now you can use any fabrics for this one. Like I said, if you have batting in place of the blankety fabric, please go for it. If you don't, like me, I found the blankety fabric readily available, so I went for it. It serves the same purpose. I mean, eventually I'll have a placemat of equal weight. So that's me again showing you the 3 fabrics, and I've pinned them together. And then I'm going to mark a place at which I'm gonna leave that opening. So where I have those chalk lines, I won't stitch that. I'll leave it open. It's a hole big enough for my hand to go through. Yep, and you notice it's after the corners. I didn't leave the corners open, so it's safe to do that. Stitch all around the corners, all around until where the line starts up to where the line ends. So that's it. After I've stitched it, as you can see, I've left the opening stitched all around like I showed you, and then I've left the opening open. Now this hole is big enough for my hand to go through. That's the whole point of it. So what I'm going to do before turning my fabrics is neaten it out with my scissors. So I'm going to cut out the excess fabric that we have on the edges. This minimizes the bulk in the fabric. When you come to the corners, you can cut the corners close to the corner, but don't chop off the corner. Not very close. Don't chop it off. Just close enough for you to be able to poke it and have a very neat corner when you turn your fabric the other way around. So I'm gonna neaten all the corners, cut out all the excess fabrics in preparation to turn my fabric. Again, when I come to turn my fabric, I'm gonna put my hand in between the two Ankara fabrics, as you'll see. So I'll leave the batting on one side and put my hand on one side. I'll have the blankety and an Ankara, and the other side I'll have just an Ankara. So like you can see, put your hand in between the two Ankara fabrics. Remember, you put them with the right sides facing each other. So now that's the time to bring out the right sides to life. Yes, to life. That's what I mean. And then you're gonna poke out the corners. Now you can use scissors for this. Very risky though, because if your scissors go the wrong way, they might chop off everything you've worked hard for. You can use a seam ripper to pull out the edges. Again, problem with the seam ripper, it might rip everything apart. So I prefer to use a pin and poke it really hard with my pointy finger. So I poke out the four corners of my placemat. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 corners. I've poked them all out. That's my placemat. Now after poking them all out, the next thing I need to do is to iron it flat. Okay, so I'm gonna iron it flat along the stitches. Oh, this is how you finish this end. So you're gonna tuck it in, all in, and then you're gonna give it a good press. Once you press it, it lies flat by itself. And then I'm gonna go and iron it flat so that I have my sides defined and make sure nothing overlaps the other. Okay, so I'm gonna go iron it flat and iron that all closing, and then come back like I have with everything ironed out. Now I want to make a stitch that makes sure when I neaten it out, that opening doesn't look so obvious. To do that, I'm gonna stitch it all around the placemat, leaving at 1/4 an inch. So like 1/4 inch. You can do 1/2 inch for aesthetic value, but I'm gonna do like 1/4 inch. This is to make sure it's not obvious that opening is there. That's the finished product. I've stitched everything out, and I like stitching all around because it also makes your placemat lie flat, really flat by the way. And that's the placemat once it's done. That's the other set of fabric. It looks raggedy because I cut the fabric along a bent line. Yep, so that's what I have at the end, and this is what it looks like with a plate on top of it. But that's a huge plate. Thank you for watching, guys, and subscribe. Bye bye.